All right, we're getting ready to wrap up this pick, and this next item is one of the larger items that, when he sent me a photograph of it, it intrigued me immediately, and that's the main reason I went out in the first place. And that is this thing right here. So, for those of you who do not know what this contraption is, this is a combination radius dresser or radius dressing and angle dressing tool used for dressing grinding wheels on a surface grinder. And specifically, it's for putting a radius on a grinding wheel. So, for instance, say you were making a part or a tool or like a surface gauge, and you ended up with a radius like this after using a ball mill or a round nose end mill, right? And say you wanted to grind that on the surface grinder to give it a really nice finish. Well, what you would do is you would use a jig like this with a diamond nub in this holder on the end here, and you would actually grind the profile that you want to grind here onto the, you would dress, you would not really grind the profile, you would dress the wheel to the shape that you want to be able to grind here. Okay, and then say you had an angle on something, okay, and you wanted to grind that angle. Well, there's a couple of ways you could do that, right? I mean, you could just use the side of the wheel and tilt the part. But sometimes you might have an application where you can't really tilt the part the way you want to and still get the wheel in there, or you might not have the clearance, or there might be some other reason where it might make more sense to actually dress the wheel and actually cut an angle on the side of the wheel. And that's what this thing can also do. So it's a very handy jig to have. It's not something I'm probably going to use a lot. I don't even have my surface grinder set up and ready to go yet. But down the road, it's going to be a nice addition. So I've got a bit for dressing grinding wheels in here, and it's just got a little industrial diamond on the end there. Okay, and that goes right in this hole here on this arm. All right, just so we can demonstrate how this works. So this is a locking nut right here. If I loosen this locking nut, I can actually rotate this, right? Okay. But the interesting thing is, this second knob right here allows me to, you pull back on it, it allows me to move this like so. Okay? So, if we do a combination of moves, we can actually move this around the wheel and grind it. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm not going to get too involved because there are plenty of videos showing people setting these up and how to use them. And then if we keep this, if we don't rotate this and we just move this, you can imagine if the wheel's right here, I can grind an angle or dress an angle on the side of that wheel. Quite a few different manufacturers make these. There's a lot of these that are imports. New, they're really expensive from a brand name. Like I think Brown and Sharp makes one of these, and the Brown and Sharp ones sell for, used, they sell for a couple $100. But this one, I haven't been able to figure out who the manufacturer is. But what's unusual about this one that I haven't seen on any others, there's a couple things. Most of the ones that I've seen, this arm is not as long as this one is on this one. Okay, this thing is It's like 11 inches from the face to the end of this arm, which I guess that would be good for reaching in underneath a larger machine, maybe. I don't know. And then the other unusual thing is this second post that's on here. Now, there's a set screw. You can loosen the set screw, and obviously you can remove this. But it's almost like it has two posts. And I think that by design, it's just not made to be used both posts at the same time, obviously. But if we take the bit out of here on this post, it's made to go in on the end, like this. Okay? So I haven't quite figured out exactly what the purpose of this post is. So I don't know. Well, this thing was pretty filthy. But it turns out there was a label right here underneath all this filth. Cleaned it off, and it is a Last Word center line of this tool. 3.400 is apparently the model number from what I was able to find out. So apparently this is a really early dresser, and this is probably I'm not sure if it's an American company or not. It says Sales Company, Detroit, Michigan. You know, it's covered by several patents. So I think this is a U.S. made tool. I think it's an early U.S. one. So the interesting thing about this is that this Last Word, this style has been around for a long, long time. And apparently Suburban Tool Company took over the name and is now manufacturing this same style of dresser. They've given it a different model number. It's in the Penn Tool catalog. So that's what the new version of this thing looks like. Okay, that you can buy from Suburban Tool. And it's on their website also, but I think it's the same price. And it is a model number LWD-A is what they're calling this now. But look at the price. It's $2,641. That's kind of funny to me that these are that expensive brand new, because you can find a lot of these online used on eBay and other places, and I've seen them sell for $150 and not look like they're in that bad a shape at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, I got a really good deal on this thing because I basically traded for a bunch of stuff and some cash, but you know, I don't have a lot invested in this, so I can afford to have this sit on the shelf, even though it's probably not going to see a hell of a lot of use here. Oh, who knows? Maybe it will. Maybe once I get the surface grinder set up, that I'll take a shine to grinding things. So I have one last item from this pick, and it's another large item. In fact, it's the largest and the heaviest of all the items that I bought on this pick, and it's so heavy that it's still in the trunk of my car where me and the seller ended up putting it. And I haven't brought it down here to the basement yet because I already spoke to somebody who is interested in purchasing it. So chances are I'm going to be able to sell it right out of the trunk of my car. So I'll just run out there and take a quick video of it, and we'll wrap this up. But before we get to that, I just wanted to get a couple of items out of the way that came in recently because, well, basically I ended up just getting these things in, and rather than doing an odds and sods video, because I'm not going to probably have enough to do a decent sized one, we'll just kind of lump this in here. So these are both eBay purchases. So the first one is an item that I had one of these previously. Actually, I still do. So we'll take a look at that, compare it to this one. And then I got another one recently, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't need two, so I'll sell one. So I sold one and kept the better of the two. And then I stumbled upon this one on eBay, and as happens occasionally on eBay, things are either listed poorly as far as like details or titles go. And what ends up happening is they tend to not get a lot of traction. So they either have like a best offer situation and they sit for a while and then the people are willing to accept the lower offer, which is what happened here, or they just don't really get any bids, and it's got such a low starting bid you can you can score it. Nice packing job. Yes, it's another Federal thickness gauge, but this one's a little bit different. So if you watch my channel regularly, you probably just recently saw that I had acquired another one of these. Matter of fact, this might be the one that I acquired. And so then I had one just like it, but it wasn't in as nice condition as this one. So I ended up selling that one and keeping this one. And then I stumbled upon this. And essentially, for not much more, I think, than what I sold the last one for, I got a deal on this on eBay. So this one's a little bit, let's see. Well, obviously. No, not obviously. Okay, so I always assume it's right-handed. So I'm guessing we do this. Yeah, that makes sense. Not sure which fingers, or if it really matters. Guess it depends on how big your hand is, if you got a long reach with your thumb. So this seems to work perfectly fine. And what I thought was neat about this was it has these dual hands that can be set. So you can essentially set, I'm sure, let's see, one must sweep the other. There we go, yeah. So you push the other one into position, and then you bring this one back down, and this becomes your high and your low no-go, right? So that's kind of a neat thickness gauge. I would say the range is, well, actually the range is going to be even better than this one, because right now it's adjusted differently, but I could see that all you got to do is, it must be a set screw maybe, but you know, rotate that screw and you can screw this lower anvil down and move it down. So anyways, well, I don't know, I thought that was kind of neat. This one has another name down here. It's interesting. The name is Hemp Mill Company. Hemp Mill. So maybe this was a company that specialized in making paper products from hemp, and that this was a thickness gauge used in inspection for how thick the product was. I don't know. Oh yeah, so I had to refresh my memory, but I just checked on eBay, and originally the gentleman had this listed for $39.99 plus a few bucks for shipping, and he had reduced the price on it. I forgot how much, but he had a best offer, and I was able to get him to take 12 bucks for this, believe it or not. So, go figure. This next item is a cheap, probably Chinese import item off of eBay for a job I want to do. I didn't want to invest big money in a fancy tool for this, so took a chance and ordered this cheapo thing off of eBay. Look at this. Wow. That box is completely crushed. Waymill LLC of Doral, Florida. Alright, so I got this thing for $5.48. Shipping was free. So what this is, oh, it's made in India. Well, anyways, this is described in the eBay listing as a watch hand remover. Alright, so what I'm hoping I'm going to be able to do with this is I'm hoping I'm going to be able to use this to remove the hand on that indicator. A couple episodes ago I showed that I had scored this Hamilton indicator that is completely inoperative, and it had occurred to me that the way to actually figure out what was wrong with this thing, because I had opened it up on this side and wasn't able to get anywhere, was that I needed to be able to take this bezel off and remove the face. And in order to remove the face, I've got to remove that hand. So that is why I bought this thing. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm concerned whether or not this will actually work on this thing. Now, well, we shall find out. So look for an upcoming episode where I see whether or not I can get into trouble with this thing. Oh yeah, I forgot about one item from this pick that I want to show you real quick before I run out to the trunk of the Nissan and show you the heavy thing. Anyways, this is a die handle, marked TRW. It's a TRW 200. It's a pretty big one. Good sized dies would fit in this. I don't usually find much use for these. Matter of fact, I rarely buy them even cheap, but he had no use for it, so he basically gave me this and threw it in with everything else. So, you know, I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth. All right, let's go take a look at that mystery item. Some of you may have even have guessed what it is. Could be a vise, could be a dividing head, could be... what could it be? What could it be? I'll tell you what it could be. It could be sold, which is why I haven't moved it down to the basement. The buyer's probably just going to take delivery right out of the trunk of my car. Voila! What we have here is a failure to communicate. No, seriously though, this is a super spacer. Not only is it a super spacer, it is a Hartford super spacer. The original, I believe they're the original inventor of the super spacer. And this one has a large Cushman chuck, I believe. Yes, this has a Cushman chuck on it. And it actually works perfectly fine. It's a little beat up, but it works great. Spins okay. So that's going to be a nice addition for somebody's milling machine. And the reason why I'm not keeping it is because I have one almost the same size as that right now. And the one that I have it's an import. It's like a phase 2 or something like that. So probably not as good as quality as this was. But my other one is in excellent condition, and I have several extra plates for it. Whereas this one, I don't have any auxiliary plates for it. I don't know what it has in it right now for a plate. I haven't checked, and I probably won't bother. Of course, even if you don't have a plate for it, you can still kind of like directly index it using the the vernier on the side there, or the scale on the side. So anyways, that's it. That thing weighs a ton. Took the two of us to carry it and put it in the trunk of the car there. So like I said, it's going to stay. Those two items are going to be probably in upcoming episode. All right, change of plans. I'm going to kind of leapfrog over here, and since you guys saw this stuff sitting in the trunk of the car anyways, I'm going to just knock this stuff out real quick, because this is part of a pick that's going to be coming up in the future. And what it is I went back to the place where I got a bunch of machinist tools, but I also got some vintage electronics. And then we kind of did a thing on the vintage electronics. Well, I went back there and I ended up picking some more vintage electronics. And I did get just a couple of machinist items. There's only a few things here. So let's just knock these out as part of this episode. And that way they'll be done. The first thing I picked was this is a 7/8 inch straight reamer. This is now it's made in the USA. It says R&T, Keystone Reamer and Tap and Tea Company. It must be Keystone Reamer and Tap Company. So that's kind of neat. But anyways, it's a good old one. The reason why I picked this is because I recently had somebody asking me if I had any 7/8 inch reamers, and I went through all my 7/8 inch reamers, and what I found was I did have multiples of this size, but they're all Morse taper shank. I didn't have any straight shank ones. So I figured, hey, since he had it there and it wasn't attached to it, I snagged it. So now I got a 7/8 inch straight shank reamer. This is a little speed handle that fits the shaft on a Kurt vise. It does not look like a Kurt branded handle. It actually looks like a Palmgren branded handle. I've seen Palmgrens that look just like this, but I couldn't find any maker's name anywhere on this thing. But I'm pretty sure this is a Palmgren, if I'm if I'm not mistaken. I think I had one of these in the past, and that's what it ended up being. I've got a Kurt one, so I'll probably sell this one. Kurt ones always have like Kurt's name right on it. And then, I don't even remember what's in this bag. All I know, it could be anything. Okay, so we've got a couple of items in here that actually are vintage electronics, and we've got a couple of little Machinist items that I snagged. So let's get those out. So I found several screw pitch gauges there, and he ended up keeping 2 of them for himself, and these were extras, so he was willing to part with them, and I snagged them. So this one says made in the USA, but it doesn't have any other markings on it, so I don't know who makes this. So, regular standard run-of-the-mill one. And then this one's kind of neat. This is, I think I've had one of these before. Somebody engraved it, but this is a Brown & Sharp model. This is a Brown & Sharp 633 by the looks of it. So this is a really versatile one. It has a whole lot of pitches that it covers. And I've got one of these now in Sterit, so this will be an item I can offer for sale. And this is kind of a crossover item, but it does qualify as a machinist tool, even though it is a vintage electronic tool. This is a Sterit digital indicator, and this is exactly how I found it. I found 2 of them, and he kept one with the box, and I got this one. And lo and behold, the funny thing is that they still work. I have no idea how old the battery is in there, but they seem to work perfectly fine. Both of them were operating nicely. So I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with that. Now I've got a Brown & Sharp one of these that's really old. It works perfectly fine. Those of you who watch my channel regularly may recall that I actually did a whole video on where I took that apart and replaced the internal battery, because that used an internal NiCad nickel cadmium battery pack that was soldered to the board. So that actually was a little bit of an ordeal to get that out and replace it and find. It was a bigger ordeal to find a replacement one, but I did find one. So that you could plug a charger into it, charge it up, and then use it. For all I know, this might be the same thing. I don't know, but I think this has got regular batteries in it, because see, there's what appears to be a battery drawer right here. So I think if we stick something pointed in here, I think that's going to open up and show us. There we go. Oh, 2 big old batteries in that sucker. Yeah. So anyways, I haven't decided if I'm going to keep that yet. I'm probably going to sell that. All right. These are going to go in the vintage electronics episode that's going to come up from this pick. But here is another crossover. This is a vintage electronic device, but it qualifies for machinist tool, so we'll add it in right here. This is notice the name. It's a Sterit. But what is it? Well, ended up looking it up online. It's a Sterit 761A, Athol, Massachusetts. Note, American made, which is unusual for electronics. It says it uses a 7.5 volt DC power supply, 300 milliamp. Use only Sterit supply, model NO60636. There was no power supply to be found with it. I have no way of testing it and knowing whether or not it works at all. There's a thing over here that says expansion. I'm assuming that maybe this just comes off and there's a place for a plug. There's some dip switches here. There's an RS-232 data port right here. Power switch, the jack. On the front, we've got Sterit 1, 2, 3, and 4. What we believe this is we believe that this is a unit that's supposed to interface with digital indicators like this, for instance, or other measuring devices. In other words, there would be a cable that would allow you to send data from this to this, and then this would allow the computer, through an RS-232 hookup, be able to receive data input from 4 different indicators. So the idea would be that you would be able to log all of the work going through and being tested at all of these different stations with indicators set up. At least that's just a guess, but we figured that's what that is. I have no idea what the value. I mean, this was crazy expensive when it was new, but you know, as it is, don't know if it works, can't test it. It's going to be one of these things of just going to probably just end up selling it for parts or repair, as they do on Fleabay. All right, so that's going to be it. We're going to call this episode a wrap. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this pick as much as I enjoyed finding this stuff. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing. Take care.